ask Wendy Pettifer to tell us a bit more of the details of the changes.
Hi everybody, I hope you can hear me at the back. I'll try and speak loudly. I'm a solicitor at Hackney Law Centre. I've lived and worked in Hackney for over 30 years. I've raised my children here. I've practised as a solicitor here for 20 years, both at the Law Centre and in private practice. These cuts are an attack on the poor, the disabled and black and ethnic minorities in our community. It's poll tax on the low paid and the unemployed. It will give rise to racism, as we've seen in the results of the Eastleigh by-election, where UKIP polled a high percentage of the vote by stating quite incorrectly that Romanians and Bulgarians were going to flood into the country from the 1st of April. I won't go into the technicalities of that. We've also seen the first homeless man recorded as dying of hypothermia in the UK because he was homeless. He was in Kent, in Aylesford. He was 35. He was called David Gauntlet, and he died on the 25th of February 2013. From April 2013, all benefit claims nationwide will be capped at £350 for a single person and £500 for a family. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about one of my clients who applied for employment support allowance. He's a working class bloke, he was a single parent, he's lived and worked in Hackney as long as I have. He was made redundant in 2009. On New Year's Eve, he was diagnosed with colon cancer and needing an urgent operation. His GP gave him a sick note for 10 weeks. When he came out of his 10-day stay in the Homerton, he was denied ESA because the minimum initial sickness period is 13 weeks. He came to the law centre. We wrote letters, we complained. 2 months later, he still hadn't got a penny. He was destitute. He lives in a housing association flat with 2 bedrooms. His adult daughter has left. I threatened the legal department of the DWP with judicial review proceedings on Friday. On Monday, he got his backdated benefit and he can now feed himself and pay his heating bills. What would he have done without a lawyer? There are thousands of people in Hackney in this situation already. It's not good enough to just blame the Conservatives. It was Yvette Cooper who introduced a much harsher ESA test in 2012. We have to look to the council, and I'm delighted that Jules Pipe is here to answer some of our questions, because without the support of the council, we are going to see homeless women and children on our streets. I already have homeless women and children as my clients, but they happen to be women who don't have leave to remain in the UK, but British citizens are going to be on the streets too. So that's the end of story. Sorry, it should be Phil's story. Whoops, that's his real name. He didn't want to come tonight. He supports me telling his story, but he's too ill to come. He's now started his chemotherapy. So I'm just going to now explain to you, because I know people are very confused about all these cuts that are coming in on the 1st of April, some very simple summaries of what they mean and outline some ideas of what we can actually do. So let's talk about the bedroom tax, because that's currently the most talked about tax. From the 1st of April, anybody who's classed as over-occupying will lose 14% of their housing benefit if they're over-occupying by 1 bedroom, 25% 2 bedrooms. Children, up to 4 children actually, under 10, can share a bedroom, and 2 children of the same sex, over 10, can share a bedroom with certain exemptions. The exemptions are disabled people with a carer who doesn't live with them, pensioners and pensioners. And today there was some great news, and this is an example of what we can actually do. A colleague of mine who works at Hopkin Murray Beskin in Finsbury Park succeeded in a judicial review challenge acting for 10 families with disabled children, 3 of whom live in Hackney, that people with disabled children with certain disabilities will be exempt from the bedroom tax. I think there was another decision as well about foster parents. So obviously judicial review challenges occasionally, but the law is not an absolute solution, can work. The most worrying thing I think about the bedroom tax is it will lead to possession proceedings and ultimate evictions, because people won't be able to afford to pay that amount. They may also be in historical arrears and they'll get evicted. Together with lots of other local solicitors, I'm on the duty solicitor scheme. I will be defending people facing evictions on Friday. I haven't got a clue how the courts that are already overstretched are going to deal with these problems, and I don't really have very many practical solutions about how the cases can be defended. One example is a housing association, Knowsley Housing Trust up in Liverpool, has declared very small box rooms. They've redesignated box room bedrooms as not bedrooms in an attempt to find some sort of solution. But I think we have to speak to the council and be in dialogue with the council about what we're going to do when these cases start to bite in 6 months' time. The next cut is council tax benefit. From the 1st of April, Hackney will be imposing a 10% cut on all. It's not just, remember, benefit claimants aren't just unemployed people, they're also people in low incomes, and how that's going to be avoided. We need to look at how that's going to be avoided, and a suggestion that other local authorities have done, although it may not be appropriate for Hackney, is to not impose that cut on benefit claimants, but to increase council tax on people, wealthy people living in large properties. And I don't really see why we couldn't do that in Hackney, because as we all know, there is an influx of wealthy people coming into the borough, although I don't actually see many of them in this meeting tonight. Employment support allowance has already been mentioned by Jeanette. She's talked about the work capability assessment test. I won't go into the details. One of the ways in which we may start to challenge is there's so much work for Atos, who is now owned by a private company, UK Care. They're having to franchise it back to the NHS, medical professionals, and maybe we can liaise with their professional associations and unions to try and take the Atos assessors off their 80% quota. They're on a quota. They refuse people irrespective of how ill they are or not. I've got another client whose case has been reported in The Guardian, whose husband died of a lung disease 3 months after he was refused Atos, scored 0 points and told there was nothing wrong with him. He died before he could have his appeal. Another cut that we need to know about is universal credit. That's coming in from the 1st of April, and it's not being introduced in Hackney, but our neighbours up in the road in Haringey are a pilot scheme. The worst thing about it is it's an integrated means-tested benefit for everybody over 18 and under pensionable age. But the worst thing about it is you can only claim online, or in very exceptional cases on the telephone, and it's only paid into bank accounts. It's not even paid into post office accounts. Now, I don't know about the people in this room, but at least I would say half my clients haven't got a clue how to use the internet. They haven't got computers, and then a lot of them can't read and write very well, or they don't speak English. So how on earth are they going to be able to claim? It will be administered by a single agency, the Department of Work and Pensions. So whilst we may be able to talk to and liaise with Hackney Council about the bedroom tax, very soon responsibility for administering housing benefit won't be with the local council, it will be with the DWP. And of course, another question for Mr. Pike, if I was able to ask him questions, is what is going to happen to all those employees employed in the housing benefit department? So that's the main features of ESA. The other features are claims will be assessed monthly in arrears, so when you claim you won't get any money for a month. backdating can only be for 1 month instead of 3 months now. And if the claimant is self-employed and hasn't got their accounts, the DWP imposes a notional earnings for them of £1,400 a month. So, you know, obviously this scheme hasn't been rolled out nationally, so maybe we can campaign with the Labour Party to stop it, although it has got all-party support in the House of Commons. And we can collect statistics from the pilots, help and support our colleagues in Haringey to show that it doesn't work. And on top of all this, on the same day, legal aid is being cut. The Law Centre is facing a 40% cut in its legal aid budget. And guess what? What a surprise. One of the main things that's being cut is benefits. There's no legal help, no legal aid for benefits anywhere. Not in a CAB, not in a law centre, not in private practice. So where are all these people going to go? I'll go back to Phil as an example, just to show you how it'll work. Okay, supposing Phil keeps his ESA. He'll go for an ATOS assessment. He'll probably get kicked off. While he's appealing, his income will be reduced to £71 a week. On top of that, as things stand, he'll lose a tenner a week for his council tax. He's down to £61 a week. On top of that, he'll lose 14 quid a week for his bedroom tax, so he'll be down to £47 a week. And this is an ordinary working class guy who's worked all his life. How is he going to live? Probably, he's got stage 4 cancer on 47 quid a week. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I think some of you may have heard on the news today that the BBC reported some research on the pilot for the universal credit, and they said it's already, people are running up arrears because of the universal credit, because of the council tax is not being paid directly to the landlord, and people are having to manage it themselves. So it's already starting.